Hello everyone and welcome back to the MyFootballWriter YouTube channel, and this is the first of hopefully very many podcasts that we bring to you every single week, and it's a pleasure as well to welcome the other two members of the team that you've not yet seen. We've got Henry Miller and as well we have Jack Wright, two names that I'm sure you're going to be getting very familiar with as we go forward. So Henry and Jack, pleasure to have you. And Henry, I'll come to you first. So let's have a bit of an introduction about yourself, what you're doing, and outside of this as well, or even on MFW as well, of course. So what is it that you're going to be bringing to the viewers and what they're going to be seeing from you in the coming few weeks?
Yeah, so first of all, MFW readers might know me from covering the women's team. I've done an article reviewing their games basically every single week during the season. And yeah, really enjoyed that. Been doing that since September. I've also done a few articles on the men's teams. I also work at Radio Norfolk, so I produce the Scrimmage and Yellow Friday. So you may have heard me on there occasionally, and you may have also heard me briefly on Future Radio as well during the daytime, reading out their What's On guides and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully I'm a familiar voice, and yeah, I can't wait to get involved.
Yeah, and as well, of course, the channel, as we all know, and all the work we've done completely ties in with Norwich City Football Club. So straight away, what's your favourite Norwich moment? Maybe your favourite kit as well, maybe even your favourite player, just to introduce yourself, get a bit of a portfolio up, if you will, for people who aren't familiar with you.
So I think my favourite Norwich moment has to be the playoff victory over Ipswich. I think to have drawn the first leg, to then win it at Carrow Road was special, and to see all of those fans on the pitch at full time, you know, those are the memories as a Norwich City fan that will stay with you for life. So I think that's probably my favourite memory since I've been a fan. My favourite kit, that's a tough one. I'm an apologist actually for the box kit, the one we had in the Premier League. Loads of people hated that, but yeah, I'm a box kit apologist. And I think my favourite player of all time is probably going to have to be Timu Pukki. Goals came to him naturally, and yeah, he was just a joy to watch when he was here.
Yeah, so there you have it, a box kit apologist. And Jack, straight away, you had your head in your hands. I don't think you like that kit very much, so I'll come to you and I'll ask you the exact same questions, of course. Introduce yourself to the viewers, see what you're going to be bringing to the table, and even you've got a Twitter account that a few people may know you already by, albeit your anonymous, yeah, your anonymous personality, of course, has been hidden, but it may have been revealed to certain people now.
I'm uncloaked. Yeah, no one knows me, but people will probably know Dean Smith's very beleaguered, wet face under a hood. Yes, I am NCFC Pain. I've been the one harvesting misfortune for the last year. If there's a bookmark on one of your tweets, it's probably me. All started as, you know, just a bit of a joke, and then it's become, you know, a big thing on X, formerly known as Twitter. I could go for my favourite Norwich player, my favourite Norwich moment, but that wouldn't be very NCFC paid. So I'm going to do the opposite. In fact, I'm going to go with what was my worst Norwich moment. It's either got to be Fulham 6, Norwich 0, or Norwich 0, Sunderland 3, when Sam Allardyce ruined any hope of staying up, or that 4-0 that might have happened just a few weeks ago. Only a few weeks ago. It feels like 2 years ago. How painful. Oh, my favourite, no, the opposite, worst Norwich player. Oh, there's been so many. Oh,
yeah, where do you even start? Yeah.
Can I say Stephen Whittaker in midfield specifically? Very niche, but anyone who will have seen that Brentford game, you know. And worst Norwich kit, that box one. I'm not even joking. It's an abomination. Or the green and not green and the yellow stripy one. The Yusuf Malumbu one. That one.
What player, by the way? Damn.
What a player. What an absolute player. On a free. What a bargain. Yeah.
You know what? I'm surprised you didn't say. Do you remember? I think it was the season after the box kit. We did that white version of the egg and crest, which you even have. You've got the original behind you there, but that white one, that was really something, wasn't it? That kit, that was
again. I think it's lovely.
Oh, really? Well,
I like it.
Yeah. I don't really collect football shirts, but that's one of the only ones I have got of the away kit. So yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Did we beat Wolves in that kit? And was it Brady scored in about 60 seconds or something like that? Yeah, I thought it was that one. Yeah, no. So there you have it. And of course, Will as well. You've already seen he did the video on Jose Cordoba, Norwich City's one and only signing of the summer so far. And as well, as he said in that video, goes by NCFC Youth on Twitter. So Will, of course, again, I'll just pose you those exact same questions. Just a bit of a more introduction from what you've already said from your previous video.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I cover the academy on Twitter, Instagram mainly, and I've got quite a few nostalgic moments that I do relish, and players as well. But I think player-wise, I'm going to go for a bit more modern one, but I think maybe quite an obscure one to maybe favourite player, but I think maybe more like a vibe player, Mario Vrancic. Oh, that left foot was just different gravy for me. I just loved watching him play throughout that 18-19 campaign, and he was absolutely superb. And similar to Henry, really. My favourite moment was the Wembley game. It was just, I would probably still put that up there, probably one of my best days of my life, even. So that just goes to show how exciting my life is. Only joking, but yeah. Henry, what about you? No, not Henry, mate. It's Freddie. How about you, mate? I'll reverse that to you.
Well, I mean, favourite Norwich memory, I wasn't actually at Wembley. That is the biggest regret of my life. I wasn't able to make that playoff final. And well, yeah, Jack, you're shaking your head, mate. I mean, I'm pretty much shaking my head as well. It's the biggest regret. So, I mean, but there's not exactly a bad substitute for it. I mean, beating reigning champions Manchester City wasn't exactly too bad, especially when we had, 11 injuries, 2 keepers on the bench. Yeah, that wasn't exactly a bad day. There's very few I can sort of put higher up than that. Bit of a rogue one as well. I put when we beat Nottingham Forest 5-1 up there as well, just because of those absolute humdingers from Howson and Houlihan in that first half. I mean, I swear their keeper went off injured because of this, or injured because he conceded 2 absolute worldies. I mean, but there's a question straight away. Which goal do you think was better? I mean, I can probably guess what you're going to say, but out of those 2, which one was a better one, you feel?
It's got to be Howson for me.
Howson, yeah. The way he hits the ball, the technique, the fact that it was pinged out as well. He didn't really have time to think about it. Brilliant. That's probably the best Norwich goal I've ever seen live. And to be honest, I think it's probably the best Norwich goal I ever will see live.
Okay. No,
I don't like Johnny Howson, so Houlihan all the way.
Oh dear.
Just saying.
Well, anyway, of course, as well, a season, of course, has just gone by, and Jack, you mentioned there a certain 4-0 loss that happened, but before that, it wasn't looking too bad from the start of the new year. So the season just gone by. Well, I'll give it to all of you. Really, if we're going to keep it brief, sort of like a 3-word summary, maybe, or even more words if you can't think of that many to sum up like everything that happened. But yeah, how would you sort of sum that up in a brief way of the season that's just gone? Because it was a real roller coaster of emotions at time, especially sort of around the sort of November, December time. I remember, Jack, you put a tweet up about the vibe meter of the entire season when it got to that. So
yeah,
all of you, how can you describe that season just gone? Because it looked like it was destined for mediocrity, but then out of nowhere we were 1 game away from Wembley, and then of course that went completely wrong. That went painfully, if I'm going to steal a page out of Jack's book. But how do you even describe what's just happened in that year under David Wagner? Because it was so bizarre at times.
I'd say strange or even funny, to be honest, because even when we did start racking up the points and getting the wins on the board, we still didn't really deserve it in some games. It was just like, okay, we scraped through like 2-3-1, and yeah, it just felt like we never really should have been in the playoffs, yet somehow did creep in there. I still think the draw against Leeds at home was a good result, but then it's probably an accurate reflection of our season, the scoreline away from home. So yeah, it was just bizarre and strange, and I don't think we'll really see a season like it.
Yeah, no, you mentioned them. That away form was absolutely shambolic at times. It was embarrassing, really. What was it? I think it was the 6th worst in the entire division, but that's something of which you would hope does improve. Of course, that's not, because we don't know in terms of how that can be. Well, of course, from the outside, we could easily say, well, just win more games, just play better ultimately. But of course, we're not the mastermind tacticians who know where every single player is going to be and what role they've been given. Of course, with the new season coming up, there's so much excitement around it, but that's a topic you can even go into. You could probably do a whole podcast on its own, just that away form. It just, where for you, well, all three of it, where did it go wrong, really? What do you think was that sort of the factor? What maybe was the driving point that just every time Norwich went away, they just turned into a catastrophe of themselves, really, at times?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all just stemmed through the way we actually set up the game. I think we went to Leicester. I think it was Easter Monday, wasn't it? And the way we just approached that, I think Leicester were in quite some bad form during the time as well. And we literally just presented the goals to them easily. I felt we just let them in the game easily as well. And I think when you go into games with such a negative approach, I think you're always putting pressure on your home form. I mean, luckily that did pay dividends for Wagner, so you can kind of say that kind of ideology worked. But in my personal opinion, it needs to be more consistent, and there shouldn't have been such a big gap between the home form and the away form, because those away performances didn't really reflect how good our players are. I don't personally think. I mean, the fact that we are even in the band of names of the likes of QPRs and Swansea, Rotherham's, etc., for away form, I think that just summarises how poor it was. And I think many teams, like opposition fans, actually said as well that Norwich were probably one of the easiest teams that they actually played at home during the season. I remember Leicester fans saying that vividly as well. So yeah, I don't think it was very, very healthy at all the way we approached the game. But obviously, I think Wagner probably achieved his goal from the outset. It was an okay season in that whole regard. But yeah, we've got to see such a big change, I think, from Thorup in the new season on how we approach our away games, because there's more to football than sitting behind the ball for 90 minutes.
I do think this season has been very similar to the 2016-17 campaign. Our home form then was brilliant. I think only Newcastle, who went on to win the league, had a better home record than us. But away from home, we just couldn't buy a win. I remember Rotherham that season were absolutely awful, like how they were this season, and still beat us. Again, exactly like they did this season. So, yeah, it was very reminiscent to that. And obviously, that campaign, we finished 8th. So this season could have gone either way, with our home form still being good. So, yeah, it is crucial that Thorup addresses the away form ASAP, really.
Yeah, but as well, when you mentioned in there,
I've got 3 words to describe last season: paella, Portsmouth, pain. I'm going to give you
alliteration as well.
No, we ain't got promotion. Yeah, no, the away form is bizarre. We couldn't beat the top teams away from home. We couldn't beat the bottom teams either. We got slapped by Plymouth. We kind of flumped our way through Birmingham, trying not to get an injury. Okay, we smashed Huddersfield, but Huddersfield decided to smash the back of Josh Sargent on the way. We were all right away from home in the middle. Which, if you are going to achieve, Premier League status and you're going to go away to Old Trafford and the Etihad, failing to win at Loftus Road. No offence to Loftus Road, it's a lovely. it's a stadium. Oh God, the QPR fans are going to hate me. It's fine. They won't watch. It's fine. But yeah, It's a very funny, weird season. Funny is a good word, I think. Looking back on it, I think just how bad it was at that point of that Blackburn game where they went 2-0 up inside 15 minutes. And I genuinely thought, that was the lowest that it could possibly go. Obviously, credit to Wagner, huge recovery after that point. Obviously, then sort of improved a 13th place finish the previous season to a 6th place finish. Got given credit for that, but also huge, massive failure. So,
yeah, no, that's definitely one way of putting it. It did feel like that in the end, of course, which is very weird as well to think of it as with how it all changed from halfway through a season, and we're addressing it as a failure in total. I mean, that just seems so odd to really go from thinking, oh well, this is brilliant regardless. We're in a playoff place. We're right up there, and then as you've said there, a failure to brand it as, it's just that just shows how weird of a season it is. And then your 3 words there, one of them being Portsmouth. Of course, that's a team we're going to be playing next season, but that's not exactly the reason as to why Portsmouth have peered their heads into this. Of course, there was, let's just say, some discontent between the board and Delia Smith and the fans, and saying we should be a bit more like the team from the South Coast in blue and white. But there's a thing on that comment as well. There was some very odd comments made throughout the entire season. There was even David Wagner saying he preferred fans to stay at home at one point rather than come to games. I mean, that's just what a truly weird season. Henry, you described it as 16-17 season. I can't disagree with that. It's got that feeling to it. But of course, the new season, it's a clean slate completely, isn't it? There's a brand new manager. Hopefully there's going to be more brand new players than just Jose Canova, because I would like to think that Johannes Hoff Thorup's going to want more players to match his style of football. And now, for me, this feels like, well, the very first season after that, this feels like Daniel Farke's first season in charge. Of course, there's that loom of excitement over it, but I wouldn't be exactly surprised if we didn't do as well as maybe first hoped from some fans. But what do you all think of that? That's because that's such a big thing as well. What are your what do you expect maybe? And then what do you think is a bit more realistic? What's the, to use a bit of a fan cliche, what's the heart and the head saying, and in that difference there? What do you think maybe is the more what you would like as a fan and what you expect really as a fan of this football club, compared to maybe if you're a bit more level-headed, you think of it in a more general term, what do you think is the realistic expectation of Norwich City going into the new season?
Well, I think it's mixed, because I think most of you can agree that the Championship's probably going to be weaker next season. You look at Leicester and Southampton, who have gone up, teams who have spent basically the last decade in the Premier League, and coming down is Burnley, Luton and Sheffield United. So even the teams coming up like Oxford and Derby, I can't see this league being weaker, being stronger than it was last season. That being said, I agree with you, Freddie. We're very much in transition, and Thorup and his style of play needs time. It does. So if we finish mid-table, but everything's clicking and the fans are bought in and we can see what they're trying to do, I think that's an all right season. But like I said, if we can make the right signings, there's no reason why we can't maybe push for the top 6 as well. But I think if we just miss out, if everyone's united again, that's the main goal.
Yeah, I mean, I share similar points to Henry, actually. But I think one of the biggest things which Norwich have to get back to is a consistent style of play, because I think that has been a bit overlooked last season. I think Wagner was a bit topsy-turvy in that particular regard. So I think the first objective is to try and install a coherent style of play, home and away, for us to see development. For me personally, I'm not expecting a big season in terms of looking to get promoted. Maybe a playoff campaign should be necessary, but I kind of share the opinion that we need to kind of get our fundamental styles of play correct before we start to look to really push next season. But I do think that I think we need to try and eradicate stuff that happened last year. I think that could take some time. So I'm not going to. Obviously, I want to have an amazing season and try and get towards the top two. But I kind of see a season where I think it's going to be maybe upper mid-table, kind of 10th in the league, something like that. But I'll be happy with that. But I think that the important thing to notice about these like long-term projects is can you see like proof of nutrients to kind of like really like get behind? And if that's the case, then I'm all for that. I just we need to try and get back at what we're good at, and at the moment, it might be 2 steps back before we take like 4 steps forward, if that makes sense. But so yeah, so I'm expecting it to take some time, but I'm open towards that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a sexy bloke, isn't he? I mean, he's got lovely eyes. He's got a lovely jumper. That's all I care about. That's a good-looking manager. I'm kidding. I mean, a 50% win rate at Nordjylland. That's pretty good. I mean, in terms of style of play, maybe call me old-fashioned. All this sort of, I like nice passing, attacking football. I just want wins, innit? Like, if you finish in 18th, but and you lose 6-0, but like, but we did have 60% possession. Yeah, I mean, if it works, when it works, it's really nice. And obviously, we're very much used to Farke and that sort of dreamy Buendia-esque football. But I think it will be dependent on who we can actually sign and if we actually have any money. I mean, our logic of releasing Ben Gibson and Dimi Yanulis is to free up some significant wages. If, the logic is then to improve, are there better players that we can get for cheaper? I mean, that's obviously the business model for literally every football club. But it's difficult. Obviously, us spending physical money on a centre-back is bananas. When was the last, like a young centre-back, when was the last time we spent tangible British pounds on a young, first team ready centre-back?
Feels like Ben Godfrey, maybe. I don't know, but even he was bought as more of a CDM, wasn't he? So great point, actually. But yeah, I was just going to say that as well. Like, just like we needed it, like this signing for absolute donkey's ages. I mean, I actually remember saying to my friends away at QPR, actually, I was like, how are we still in 2024 and we're still playing with Hanley and Gibson for like the last 4 or 5 years? It just kind of shows how bad our recruitment actually was. So yeah, I'm very much in the mindset of Jack on that one.
And as well, I know most people like him, but how is it 2024 and we still have Onel Hernandez on the wing?
Oh yeah, that's a yeah. Well, we could do this for anyone, can't? But especially sort of Onel Hernandez and Grant Hanley, Ben Gibson, but as well, of course. Well, you were just saying there, Jack, about we're looking at cheaper centre halves. Of course, Cordoba, I believe the fee is around £3 million, which is for someone who has only played really in the Bulgarian league at the height of his career so far, and is still a very raw talent. Of course, we have to try and unearth, and I'd imagine the coaching staff will try and implement different things into him to work it in the style of play. And of course, I would imagine with Thorup already saying he wants plenty of possession-based football. He wants players to be confident and dominate the ball. That realistically, Cordoba is going to have to be confident on the ball. All of the players are, and at times we saw last season. We've seen it over the last 4 years with Duffy and Gibson and Hanley, where they've been shaky. There was, I remember the very first game of this season, just gone, Hull. You had Duffy literally kick the ball into Gibson's shin that led to Delap going 1-on-1 and he scored. So I would like to think that will be something we never see again. But of course, for all we know, it could be. We need the players to be so confident. And I would say the experienced heads can teach the younger centre-halves. Well, Shane Duffy, when he's getting, sorry to be a tiny bit expletive here, getting pissed up and crashing his car in Heatherset before a playoff semi-final, that's not exactly what you want to be looking at as a younger player. So, of course, there was some big calls about sack off the contracts. That didn't happen, or it could still happen for all we know. Ben Napper wants the squad to be younger. But another thing that can be done with younger centre-halves, we've got some cracking academy lads, and Will, you'll know all about this. I can already, your eyes are lighting up as I'm saying it, but there's a long list. To name a few, there's Jonathan Tompkinson, Emmanuel Adegboyega, there's Jaden Warner as well that could potentially got Brad Hills, who had a great season on loan at Accrington. So, and Thorup said in his first club interview, he has a similar feel as what he did at Norgeland, where they've brought up some great academy players. Simon Adingra and Mohamed Kudus spring to a head immediately just thinking about them. But Will, straight away, in terms of young players, of course, this probably more than anyone, maybe even some of the youth coaches at Norwich City with how much you cover it at times. But do you think really this is the season where we could start to see them breaking through a lot more and getting more minutes, or is it they should be loaned out and still be honing their craft in the lower leagues?
Yeah, I think it is. But the question which I've kind of thought to myself about actually the last few weeks is actually the extent of like how much Thorup's going to try and like get through to the first team. Obviously, I think that'll probably be made apparent when there's a like press conference unveilment for Thorup to be obviously the new manager, of course. But I think it's a great opportunity. All four of those have done so well, and I think like the main reason why that is because especially at 18s and 21s level, the amount of kind of stress they get at their goal is unbelievable, especially under 18s levels. So they do get quite a good environment to kind of hone their skills, and even I'll go a bit deeper. The likes of Charlie Wilson and William Reneke are two very good centre half coming through as well. So there you kind of got six already, and it's just an absolute massive overdraft for them, if you will. But that's a great position to be in, right? And although I think like all of them have got some really good assets and skills to one another, I just can't help but think it will only be one of them that will probably be used next season for the first team. I just think all of them are all right-footed, and I think the majority of them will feel now that like they can play at a high level. Maybe if they can't do it at Norwich, maybe somewhere a bit below. So League One maybe probably be the best example for that. But yeah, I think one will get pushed because obviously you got Shane Duffy and Grant Hanley obviously aren't too good with their feet, which I think we all know that. And I think those four are all good with their feet. I think Adegboyega probably needs a bit more practice and experience playing with a team that kind of likes to play out from the back. But he has shown in glimpses this season for the 21s that he can play out the back really, really nicely. Depending on how they're going to be timed in terms of judged from like least likely to most likely, I think it's anyone's guess. But I wouldn't expect Warner to probably be in it this year. I think he had quite a in and out loan at Notts County. I think he got injured as well, so I think Norwich probably like to obviously evaluate him in pre-season and then look to see where he's at. And then, but obviously as well, I think Tompkinson's a really good shout as well. But I think the thing with him is that he's actually got a good chance of going to the Olympics with USA in the summer as well. So that actually might affect some of his time for pre-season at Norwich. So then you're kind of left with two of Hills or Adegboyega. I know there's quite a big Twitter presence wanted to see Brad Hills make the step through. Obviously, him being a homegrown lad, I'm all for that. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't mind even him getting like a League One move just to keep on the positive trajectory of his career. So look, I think it could be any of the four really. I think it all depends on who Thorup wants. But I think one player which I think is definitely going to have a big role this year is Abu Kamara. I think Jonathan Rowe is probably going to leave. I feel obviously that market is an absolute premium for kind of talented wingers as well. Both footed, he can play on the left and right and through the middle as well. So I see him probably going, but that could open up a great chance for Abu Kamara.
Yeah, certainly.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, of course, yeah. With Abu Kamara, Henry, you were just going to say something now. I can imagine we're all very excited about him, aren't we? Had a great season, and as well as Will said there, that could interlink with Jonathan Rowe potentially moving on. Not that we'll want to see it, but that's a very real possibility, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And to be fair, out of the four key players who have been rumoured to leave, so Gunn, Sarah, Sargent and Rowe, I think Rowe's probably the one you could lose and still have an all right season. You look at the back end of last season when Rowe was injured and we still kept on churning out results. So I think next season is the perfect opportunity for someone like Abu Kamara to break through and have that run in the Norwich first team. But what I will say, sort of following on from Will's point as well, is when we said that next season will be a season of transition and we have to give the manager time. Well, maybe we have to give the young players time as well. If we're going, if one of our main objectives is to reduce the age of the squad, then the players we bring in, we need to give them time. Like I was listening to, I think it was Adam Harvey for the Pinkin. He did an interview with a Bulgarian football expert about Cordoba. And to be fair, I don't think what this expert was saying portrayed Cordoba in a great light at all. He just said that he might find it difficult to adapt to the physicality of the Championship, and it is a massive step up from the Bulgarian league. But he's young, he's left-footed, so I think we just need to give him time as well and give these young players time in order to help them develop at Norwich City. So, yeah, next season, not to play on the recent take that gig too much, but we do need to have a little bit of patience.
So say it.
Well, it's a very, very fair point, and I completely agree with it. This is really going to be, well, hopefully, if we do really crack on after, say, the first 10, 15 games where those players are learning the style and they really get down on it and they're able to crack it perfectly and they can play some beautiful football at times. Of course, that may not happen. For all we know, this excitement really could have been lived up and it ends up being a complete disaster under Johannes Hoff Thorup. That's always the double-edged sword when you get a new manager in. But as well, in terms of giving it time, maybe as well, we've already sort of touched on transfers. Of course, Cordoba's already happened. There could be some going out the door, but maybe what could we see the transfer strategy be at Norwich City from now on? What do you think maybe Thorup will look to implement within when he's searching for players? Will it be he looks for the younger side in working with Napa because that's what he wants as well? Could we see maybe some more sort of players in their prime and maybe what Daniel Farker did in previous seasons and find these really good players who end up being very good and in their prime years, but they're hidden away than other targets. People don't really know about them, but maybe sort of like Brentford's thing in a way, a bit more Moneyball strategy where you look at the statistics and the facts and figures on players rather than you go for the very obvious option that the media are all bigging up and then you end up splashing maybe too much money. So what do you think maybe we could be seeing in terms of transfer strategy, or will that, where will Thorup and Napa look to work on?
Well, I personally think what's been said over the last few days is it's just sounded like it's going to be like loans and free transfers, really. There's been quite some heavy communication been said about that. Norwich don't have much money to kind of use to buy players. I don't know if that situation might change if Sarah, Rowe, etc. leave, but I think we could expect maybe some high pedigree like young players on loan from Premier League clubs. A name that like quite fascinates me is Shay Charles, actually from Southampton, who gone up, a very good CDM who's really good on the ball. Yeah, that's maybe like a potential example, but I do see kind of being a very like youth orientated approach, and I'm absolutely fine with that. But they must kind of show their quality still, because we do have standards at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm expecting a very kind of young heavy approach and hopefully get some good free signings as well, because that is quite a hard market as well. Obviously, the later you go on the window, the more players which are unavailable means that there's going to be less quality out there to buy. So yeah, I'm expecting quite a youth heavy summer, which I'm all in favour of, obviously.
In terms of strategy as well, I think Ben Napa needs to do whatever he didn't do when he signed Van Hooijdonk.
No.
Yeah, that was an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
You could tell the minute he came onto that pitch, you could tell that he was just miles off it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that was an odd one, Sidney Van Hooijdonk. Of course, we have not exercised the option in the loan to buy him. Yeah, exactly. Chat.
It would be the most Norwich City thing ever, though, if we did. Where it's just like, psych, we've got you.
Well, that was a weird one. I mean, as you say there, he didn't look like he was ever going to do much whenever he did come on. Of course, he very rarely got the playing time. I think really that the whole point of the signing, I think it seemed rushed to me. Of course, Adam Eder ended up going to Celtic on loan, and then I think really we seemed to just be in the market for a third choice striker, which maybe we would have benefited from not even bringing in, because he probably didn't even play 100 minutes as a Norwich City player. It did not, and maybe the team didn't play to his strengths. I think I remember reading in the club article when he was signed that he was more of a poacher and he looked to sort of pounce on any loose balls in the box, and that's not really, it's not really the style that Norwich City tend to play. Of course, with Josh Sargent was more, well, and him and Ashley Barnes are more pressing forwards and look to get on the end of through balls with good movement and judgment. But they just, that needs to be changed, as you said there. That less Sidney Van Hooijdonks, please, and more whoever. I can't. Well, Napa hasn't really made a successful signing yet because he's only really made one or two. But hopefully that does all change. But yeah, no more. Well, we've got a history with we've got a history with poor Dutch strikers, haven't we? Beginning with Van, a certain big bad wolf.
Don't say a bad word about my Ricky.
But yeah, what stuck with me as well about the Van Hooijdonk signing, it was clear that David Wagner didn't want that player. And David Wagner went on record to say that he was unhappy with certain elements of the recruitment. Like when Eder went out on loan, he went on record, I think it was after the Sheffield Wednesday game, saying that he told the board that we needed more players in January and they didn't listen. So I think the main strategy is that Napa and the manager are on the same page. You know, when Stuart Webber first came to the club with Daniel Farker, it was very much a two-man band, whereas especially towards the latter end of last season, I don't know whether it was because Wagner was an inherited head coach rather than an appointed head coach, but the disconnect seemed to not only be from the supporters, but it seemed to seep throughout the club. So I think the strategy as well should be just get back to basics and make sure that the head coach and the sporting director are on the same page when it comes to signings.
I really think the strategy should be just sign loads of players who we've never heard of with really long names, so that when they come over the tannoy warming up at Carrow Road, the entire river end goes, who? I want one of them.
Even you want players who sound great pronounced in a Norfolk accent. That's why I was buzzing when we signed Kyle Lafferty, because the whole stadium kept going, is that fucking Kyle Lafferty? It's just amazing.
Again, so many players who have given me so much content. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other players in Norfolk accent. I mean, Pookie was his name was sort of always pronounced in a Norfolk accent way anyway. Of course, they're going to be running through my head, and they're probably going to spurt out at random times. I'm just trying to.
And everyone loved calling Van Wolfswinkel Rick Van Winkle. Is that?
Oh, it's getting very canary cool, isn't it?
Good old Hooten.
Yeah, Jordan Hugel. Yeah. I mean, obviously there was Plaheta or Poiheta. I mean, that was never going to work. Well, that was a very difficult one. He probably had about 7 different names at once during episodes of Canary Call. Oh, poor Poiheta and whatnot. And it's quite weird actually, because he's gone on to Swansea, and I think he wasn't part of their retained list, and all the Swansea fans seem to be genuinely really upset that Plaheta hasn't stayed at Swansea. I mean, just what's going on there? I'd love to know what's going on with Swansea fans there, because apart from being able to run really fast, he had nothing really, didn't he? He's one of many poor signings, but yeah, that's an interesting one, wasn't it? Plaheta, and God knows, we're going off on mega tangents. Let us know. You know what? Let us know.
Swansea just love stealing our left backs. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, on Martin Olsen as well. But yeah, that can even be the big question of this week before we go into next time. What is your favourite pronunciation of Norfolk accent of a player? Is there anyone who springs to mind? We've already covered Jordan Hugill as he's known over here in that part of the country that just sticks out. And then there's going to be a few others. Do let us know. But anyway, getting slightly a little bit more on track, and then sort of maybe going back to, we've already sort of spoken about Jose Cordoba, but again, that's sort of just that, as we've already discussed, looks exciting with it being a left-footed centre half. He's going to really be the replacement of Ben Gibson, but hopefully that is one that really works out, and it's good to see, isn't it? A young centre half who we certainly hope will be very good, but that brings a thought in my mind. Are Norwich going to stick maybe with a back four, or could that be something that we may look to start a back five potentially and go for 3 centre halves, maybe to maybe integrate a few more players? What's your standpoints on that? Do you think that could cause a tactical change up, or are Norwich just going to keep it simple and, for all we know, just play the old classic 4-4-2? I've got no idea.
I don't really think we've got the players to play a back five, to be honest with you. We'll end up playing someone like Nunes on one wing as the wing back and Hernandez on the other. So, yeah, that would be an absolute shambles, I reckon. It will remind me of the season we went up, actually. And the first game, we had Birmingham away, and we had that left mid. I forget his name. It's Ben somebody.
Ben Marshall.
Ben Marshall, that's the one. Ben Marshall on one of the wings and James Husband on the other as the fullback. So yeah, it's hard to think that we went on to win the league that season. But I don't know. I think we need to be rigid in our approach as well. So obviously let the wing backs go forward. Well, the most important thing is to sign a left back anyway. But let the fullbacks bomb forwards, and then just no nonsense defending. So, which is why I think Grant Hanley probably has to play on the right of defence over someone like Shane Duffy. I think with Hanley, he is more reliable, and as well, Hanley, when he does what I'm trademarking as the Hanley run, there's only one outcome, and that's Grant Hanley getting the ball. We all know the one where he ducks his head and then throws it. He has never lost the ball by doing that. You watch. When a team's on the counter-attack and they're facing Grant Hanley, the minute he ducks his head and sprints, the ball either goes out of play or he gets the ball.
He's quicker than you think.
He's absolutely rapid. I love Grant Hanley.
Yeah, well, wasn't it at the last Euros? Didn't he clock a quicker speed than Mbappe?
I hate stuff like this, man.
Wouldn't surprise me. I mean,
yeah, no, typical Grant Hanley. Well, as we've already discussed, 4 years, well, even longer than 4 years at Norwich City, and he's still our bloody first choice centre half. But yeah, you can't. Well, as we used to say, you'll never beat the Hanley, but I think that's changed a little bit as time has maybe gone on. But as well, and Jack, I know. Well, when we were sort of talking before this, you said you had some quick fire questions you wanted to dish out to sort of maybe bring things to maybe closer to an end on what maybe has been a bit of nonsense, but it's been brilliant nonsense, and it always will be. But yeah, so you said you had some quick fire questions to ping around to all of us, so let's hear them.
So usually podcasts are all about long-winded opinions and convoluted explanations. I don't want any of that. I'm going to give you some questions, and you're going to give me an instant question without any explanation or any preamble or anything like that. I'm going to go round in a circle. This is definitely not for me to get content to bookmark at all. So just speak from the heart. Just go with it. Just go with it. I'll start with Freddie, then go with Henry, then go with Will. So, quick fire question. I'll go through these really quickly. Would you rather sell Sargent or Sarah? Go.
Sarah.
Henry.
Sarah.
Sargent.
Okay. Who is the one player you'd like to see sold?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. Bloody hell. McLean.
What?
Henry.
Adam Eder.
Hanley.
Norwich win a trophy or England win the Euros?
Norwich win a trophy.
Norwich win a trophy.
Yeah, Norwich win a trophy.
Oh, it's like we're doing a Norwich podcast. Which terrible Norwich signing did you actually like?
James Husband.
Stephen Naismith.
Wild shut.
That's I completely forgot we had Yannick Vilcher.
Worst home atmosphere you've experienced as an away fan?
Oh, what a question again. Millwall.
Going after Millwall. Great idea.
Huddersfield.
And for me, Birmingham away in the not this year, but the last year. I think half the ground was still in like maintenance work. So yeah, hence why that's my guess.
Far too long. Expand Carrow Road or have a large transfer budget?
Expand Carrow Road.
Large transfer budget.
Large transfer budget.
Ooh. Numerous relegations and promotions or 10 years of mediocre Premier League safety?
10 years of safety.
10 years of safety.
10 years of safety.
Best TV chef?
Gordon Ramsay.
Hairy bikers.
Greg Wallace.
You're all wrong. It's Delia. Come on. And where will Norwich finish in 24-25?
4th.
9th.
10th.
Bookmarking all of that. Thank you so much.
No, that's completely fine. No, actually we can. Well, I want to talk about some. Of course, we got to talk about some of them answers. I mean, just how on earth is Yannick Vilcher and read his head into this after all those years? I couldn't even tell you where Yannick Vilcher is playing now. I remember he played
Oxford.
at Oxford for a bit.
Yeah, I think Oxford. Yeah.
No, well, if he's still there, that's certainly very interesting. If he, well, him and Josh Murphy will most definitely be scoring at Carrow Road or the Kassam or whatever their stadium is called nowadays. And even that, what I'm trying to think of what
Freddie.
Stephen Naismith. Yeah.
No. Before we touch it, Kenny McLean to get sold. Come on, explain yourself.
Shocking.
I see. It's the thing. Like, of course, don't get me wrong. Kenny McLean, he is a fantastic player. He is brilliant, and he's been a fantastic servant. But I just think that he's been there too long. He's just these. We've you can just see Jack putting his shirt in his hands. No, but I just think Kenny McLean, he is brilliant. Don't get me wrong, but it's time to shift it up now. It's time to bring in new boys. It's time to change up this team and give it a new identity. We need to be shuffling up the pack, but we can't just keep relying on these players that we've had for so long to just keep being brilliant. Of course, they're getting older, and maybe, well, they could well with Kenny McLean, of course, has probably gotten better as his Norwich career has gone on, but there needs to be a bit of a shake-up, in my opinion. We need to see different players being integrated. We can't keep... Well, I know a lot of teams rely on the same core in their teams, but I think we need, like I said, it just needs that slight little change in it. Of course, that's not saying, I want Kenny McLean right this instant to go. I'm not saying that straight away I want to look at my phone in the next 10 minutes and see Kenny McLean has been sold to Rangers or whoever he's going to go to. But I just think there needs to be something else integrated within this system, and change has got to happen, really, for me, because otherwise it'll end up going on a free in a couple of years anyway. He's getting near sort of that tail end of a career, but I'm going to get a lot of backlash for it. And if Kenny McLean does leave, I am a mastermind, but he's not going to leave. I'm probably digging myself.
Then again, this is a problem I think most fans and trap most fans fall into. If he leaves for free, but we get 2 or 3 great seasons out of him and a promotion, why would that matter? I think Kenny McLean is the single most important player for Norwich City because he's the engine. He's the one who ticks, who keeps the team ticking on. Say someone like Sarah and Sainz. Technically, these players are all better than Kenny McLean. They're all individually better than him. But you remove McLean out of that team and it all crumbles. You know, you look at Sarah. Sarah is brilliant and one of the best Norwich players I've seen. But he can go missing in games, right? Someone like Kenny McLean to just be the glue that holds that all together is important. And players like that are so invaluable.
No, yeah, it's a very, very fair point. But to counter it, I raise you how well Marcelino Nunez has been doing in defensive roles as of late. Of course, Ipswich and Leeds at home straight away spring to mind with how well he played just overall in the game. He covered every single blade of grass. So could that maybe be a natural replacement we see as Nunez maybe takes the reins on that? Of course, he may end up being a player that does go. I know that there was a lot of interest in him in his first few months at Norwich City. Sevilla came knocking, I'm pretty sure. But could that be something straight away that we see implemented? Maybe then could be something under Thorup with how he wants to bring in youth players. Could there be maybe that we see that rising through? And could that be something maybe? And he could perhaps controversially to fans replace the favourites, and for all we know, it could pay off. It may not, but that's the great unpredictability of football. You know, that's what's so good about it. You never know what's going to happen, and if something's going to be absolutely brilliant, or if it's all going to fail. So, what maybe do you think of that? Could that be a way of which we integrate that with the sort of older heads? Maybe that it's been made clear that ultimately sooner rather than later could well be getting their marching orders through the door at Colney.
I mean, I think the first thing I would say about that, Freddie, is that I think Nunes and McLean are 2 different players, midfield players. I think McLean is a bit more combative, and I'd be a bit skeptical if Nunes can carry out that same role as Kenny has done really well this season. So that's the first thing I would kind of say about that. But I think another point I'd like to make as well is that you look at Sunderland this season, they went for like the most youth orientated sides, and fair play, I'm all for that, of course, but I think you just need those 2 or 3 experienced heads just to like guide everyone across, because I feel like at times it could either go either one way or the other to the extreme. And I think Kenny is that reliable kind of man in midfield. Look, I don't think he is the most effective in possession at times. I think he can give the ball away by trying to do like some sort of like mega pass. Yes, but I think he adds so much leadership qualities to that group as well. And I think they are vital, especially if you're going to go for a very, very like youth orientated team. We're going to need those kind of like leaders to kind of maintain like the standards, if you will, because I think obviously Sunderland have shown this season, if you go like fully for that approach, it can go topsy-turvy despite them having some really good games in there. But yeah, I'm definitely in the favour to keep Kenny, and I think he still plays every game next season for us. I just think he's that important to what we try and do, but definitely need some fresh blood around it, because obviously I think Nunes have been absolutely superb. I think from that Ipswich game onwards, I think the away game, sorry, I think he's probably been our best player since then. Honestly, I think he's been absolutely superb. But you can't start playing Nunes in the 10 role, because it does my head in, because he's so much better in the deeper role alongside Kenny. So yes, I'm all for some fresh midfield impetus in the midfield role. Don't get me wrong, but I think Kenny's still got a vital role to play.
Yeah, well, there you have it. There you have it. Kenny McLean to be sold. Yannick Wildschut was liked by some fans, and then we could have some potential very painful moments already coming up just from what we've spoken about today. It's been a barrel of laughs already, and we're still waiting for the season to begin. It's still a bit away. There's pre-season stuff coming up. You see that Jack's rubbing his hands already. He's excited.
Has he disappeared? Is Freddie gone?
Oh no, it's the Wi-Fi.
Well, we just knew that was going to happen.
To be fair, he did well for 55 minutes, to be fair, so I'll give it to you. So pre-season really gets you going then, does it, Jack?
Well, that's absolutely brilliant. Well, there you have it. Wi-Fi connection even dying as well. This, yeah. Don't say we're not entertaining, because we really are. But anyway, we'll hope to see you in the next one. And this has been the first episode of the MyFootballWriter podcast. We'll be seeing you this time next week. Hopefully, some videos coming up throughout the week as well. And we'll be seeing you for the next one.